Welcome. I'm Kat Millar from Amplify Your Influence, and welcome to this training. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 things that kill your presentations every time, and most people are not even aware of them. So they're called little known things, because a lot of people will do their presentations and have absolutely no idea that they're doing them. So I'm not sure if you're presenting at the moment, whether you do Facebook Lives, whether you do Insta Lives, Insta Stories. Do you ever talk to a camera? Do you ever present to one person or multiple people? If you do any kind of sharing of content through speaking, then you are presenting. So maybe you're a coach and you just present information to one person. Maybe you present information to multiple people through your social media, or maybe you are doing webinars or workshops, things like that. So if you wanting to do more speaking, more presenting and speaking, sharing your knowledge with more people, then this is for you. So welcome those of you who are on here live. I'd love to know, are you currently doing any type of presenting at all? Are you doing any Facebook Lives, Insta Lives? Are you doing any kind of speaking to video? Maybe it's pre-recorded, maybe it's live. Maybe you've done it in the past. So please let me know, where are you at in your presentation journey, so I can tailor this to suit you, and so that I know who I've got here. Hello, welcome. So 3 little known things that kill your presentation every time. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because over the last about 13 years now, I've been presenting to groups. And the reason I got into presenting to groups, even though I was super introverted and didn't want to do it, I was working one-on-one with clients. So I've been working one-on-one with clients for quite a few years, and I had a full book of business. So I was working as a personal trainer in Auckland, and I had about 40 clients, which is a lot of clients as a personal trainer, because most of my days were spent loading weights and motivating people and running around and helping them, and it was a very physical job. It was great. But my favorite part of that job was actually the coaching side, when I got to sit down in a consult room and talk to people about their goals and their dreams and why it was important for them to change their body and their life. And so I was incorporating a lot of coaching into the personal training sessions, and I loved one-on-one. One-on-one was my comfort zone. I used to love fitness growing up, and doing things like personal bests, where I was always trying to beat my amount of push-ups or my amount of weight that I could squat. And I remember thinking, like, I was doing aerobics competitions at the time, but I remember thinking, I don't really want to be a group fitness instructor, because I don't want to stand in front of people. I do not want to be in front of a group of people. I'm way too shy, introverted. I don't love the limelight. I don't even like the limelight. That's not going to be me. So when I found out about one-on-one personal training in 2003, I thought that, well, it was 2001 actually, I thought that would just totally suit me. It would suit my personality. I don't want to be the one up the front, with everyone looking at them. But after I'd done it for a few years, I realized I'm actually going to be completely held back by this model, because I was really tired. I was getting up early. I was working late at night. And I remember going to this convention called Filex. It's a fitness convention in Sydney, and I lived in Auckland, but I used to fly over to the Filex fitness convention every year. And I remember sitting there one time, and I was listening to the speaker, and I suddenly got this feeling like, it's going to take me way too long. I am just never going to grow the business that I want to grow. I'm never going to have the impact and the ripple effect that I want to have in my business if I'm doing it one by one by one. And it just hit me like, oh my gosh, I have to get over this fear of doing multiple people, like working with multiple people at the one time. And I remember just thinking, when you try and get out of something, you think, I'll go around it, I'll go under it, but I don't want to go through it. And I just remember thinking, I've got to go through this. I've actually got to learn how to do this. I've got to overcome my fear. I've got to overcome all of my stuff coming up about, I don't want to run boot camps. I don't want to do one-to-many. I just was so resistant to it. Can anyone relate to this, where you just think, oh, I love one-on-one, it's so comfortable, it's so easy? And I remember just thinking, all right, Kat, you've got to step up, you've got to learn this. And so I didn't want to go from one-on-one straight to big groups. I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to become a group fitness instructor, but I am going to do the next step, which was to run a small group called Look Better Naked. And it was this program at the time where it was 6 women for 6 weeks, and you just run training 1-on-6. So instead of 1-on-1, it was 1-on-6. And so I remember training for it, and Les Mills has some quite stringent targets the way they do things. And I remember the guy who was assessing me said, "You're too quiet. You need to yell." And it just, I was so used to one-on-one. I've been doing one-on-one for years. It just felt so out of my comfort zone. So I remember he failed me. He was like, "You've got to be louder. You've got to be more extroverted. You've got to just put it on. You've got to fake that confidence until you feel it." And so I just had to learn how to do it. And eventually I started running boot camps, and then I started doing more, a lot of one-to-many presentations. And my next progression was when I became a coach. I thought, okay, I can do one-on-one sessions with clients, but group coaching, presenting, I'm not really sure about that. But the same thing happened where I bumped up against this belief of my comfort zone. I came up against that resistance, and I realized, oh wow, it's another hurdle where I've got to now practice, instead of going one-on-one coaching, to go and actually be able to run workshops. So I started running workshops in my local gym, in that little studio there. And I didn't realize a really important thing about presenting. And this is my first point. The problem that most people have when it comes to creating a presentation is that they don't have a proper structure. They wing it without structure. And that's what I was doing. I was literally showing up and just posting content, right? I was just showing up, teaching everything that I knew, instead of actually organizing my knowledge correctly. There's a real formula to presenting correctly, and presenting in a way where people can receive the information, where people are engaged, where you can maintain people's attention. I didn't know any of that. So the first thing that people get wrong that kills their presentation is they think that they can just flow and speak intuitively, right? They think, oh, I'm just going to see what comes out. I'm such an expert. I've been doing this for so long. I know that whatever I say is going to be good. But the fact is, if we don't have a structure, if we don't plan our talks, if we don't organize our knowledge in a way that someone wants to receive it, we're actually doing our audience a disservice. And I've seen this happen so many times where people just go, oh, I'm just going to speak from the heart. And there are times for sure where within your structure, within your flow, within that formula that you're following, there are times where you can be intuitive, where you can speak from the heart, where you can kind of wing it, but you do not want to wing a presentation. And too many people, they don't practice enough because they think that it's going to make them lose their edge, make them not be spontaneous, make it not exciting, when actually the opposite is true. When you really think through it properly, instead of just waffling whatever on top of your mind, your audience is going to be able to take some substance from it because the knowledge is organized. And I've seen this happen time and time again. If you think about professionals and successful people, it's because they worked and worked and worked and practiced and practiced and practiced. I don't know if you've seen the documentary on Netflix called The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. It is incredible, like the amount of practice that this guy put in. Obviously he's the best in the world at basketball, but there was this time where he said to his assistant coach, I think his name was Roy Williams, he said, I want to be the best in the UNC. And his coach goes, well, you've got to work the hardest. You've got to put in the most practice. And he just did hours and hours. He'd come to the gym before everyone else, and he'd leave the gym after everyone else. And I was talking about, I was reading about it actually, when he was filming the movie Space Jam. They would film like weeks and months on end from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. And then he would finish filming that 12-hour day, and then he'd go straight to training and practice for 5 hours every single day. He worked harder, and he said to that coach, I'm going to work harder than anyone else. Watch me. I'll prove it. And so when we do a presentation where we're just winging it, we haven't planned it, we just kind of, oh, I'll just speak and I'll just share from the heart, we're really not doing our audience a service. We're not valuing them enough to plan it and craft it. You know, psychology and influence when it comes to helping people take action, because remember, every single presentation is designed for someone to take action. It's not designed for it to be interesting. Oh, that's some nice information. You want actually for someone to be inspired to take action as a result of your talk, right? You don't want people to just go, oh yeah, that's quite interesting. You want to inspire someone and move someone to actually be inspired, to influence them, and that requires crafting. That's why presenting is a profession, because it requires crafting and getting those words and tweaking them and changing them. And the higher the stakes, the more you do it. You know, if you think about TED Talks, people who do these TED Talks, they practice and practice for months, day in and day out, hours and hours and hours for this one 18-minute talk. So that's the first thing that kills your presentation. It's just thinking that you can wing it without a structure. The second thing that kills someone's presentation is focusing on themselves and not on their audience. And this happens all the time, because public speaking is so many people's biggest fear, number one fear. People are really self-conscious and they're thinking about themselves, and the audience feels it. So when you're self-conscious and you're worrying, like, what do I look like? What do I sound like? Oh, I don't like the sound of my voice. Oh, what if they think I'm stupid? What if, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I'm stuffing up. And they're just obsessed with thinking about what they're doing wrong and how they're standing and how they're moving. Like, yes, you can train yourself on gestures and all that kind of thing, but ideally you're so present, you're so with the audience, and you're so thinking about them and your message and what's coming through, that you're not thinking about yourself at all. I spoke at an event on Sunday and I spent so much time rehearsing. I did this funny thing where I actually set up both of my screens. I just Googled women, because it was a women's event. I just put women into Google, brought up all these images of women, and I put them on my two screens, and I just rehearsed to these faces, and I speak to one face, then move to the next face, then move to the next face. And it was just a great way to rehearse, because it felt real. It was all these people looking back at me, and I haven't presented at a live event for quite some time. It's all been online. So looking at everyone on Zoom, when actually on Zoom, I don't put it on the gallery view because it's very distracting. If I look at gallery view, it looks like I'm looking down, right? But if I'm looking straight at the lens, it looks like I'm looking at you. So I can either enjoy looking at everyone's faces, or I can make it feel like I'm actually speaking to you. And hopefully you, right now, feel like I'm speaking directly to you. So that's the difference on video. You've got to always be thinking about your audience and not yourself. And I visualized that presentation night after night before I went to sleep. So before I go to sleep, I visualize what I want, and it's usually helping thousands of people, but it's literally, I think of lots and lots of people come into my events, because that's the most leveraged way that you can spend your time, is to communicate to multiple people at once. That's why people will organize their knowledge and put it into a book, or organize it into a TED Talk or a really great presentation, because you craft it, and then that can go to multiple people, right? So it's not one by one by one. And so when I showed up on Sunday and I was seeing everyone, it just felt completely normal. So there was no nerves at all. And it was just, I'm here to serve, I'm here to serve. It's all about my message. I'd practice and practice and practice, so that I wasn't thinking about trying to remember my talk. I was thinking about, how can I deliver this in a way that's going to land with these people? And that is not something that necessarily is easy. It requires practice. Again, it comes back to that intentional practice. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because if you get one valuable presentation, that is an asset, right? So that crafting that you put in, it's not just for that 1/2 hour in time or hour in time. It's something where you're building your craft, you're building a legacy item. A speech is a legacy item. It's an asset. It's like a book. you craft this presentation and you can use it over and over again, or you can tweak it and change it and make it better and better and better. And I'm so passionate about helping people with this because it's the ultimate way to leverage their time. So if you've got knowledge, wisdom, skills, experience that you know can help people, to me, the most logical thing for you to do with that is to present it not just one at a time, but to multiple people at once. But you got to get over one block, and that's that fear of doing it. But when you know how to do it, you know how to craft it, you know the formula to make sure that it works, to make sure that you're doing all the right things in that presentation, you can put a lot of confidence in that structure, which is what I help people with. Thank you, those of you who are on here live. Good to see you all. Welcome, welcome. Oh, thanks, Zaz. I appreciate that. Thanks, Josh. All right, so number one is winging it without structure. Number two is focusing on yourself and not the audience. So that's really the presenter's journey, is how to go from trying to look good, trying to avoid looking bad, to making a difference. Really focusing on making a difference. And if you care about your audience, you'll really take the time to craft that message. Number three, when it comes to 3 things that kill your presentation, number 3 is undersharing or oversharing. Undersharing or oversharing. So I'm going to talk about both of them. So the first one, undersharing. We have to provide value, right? If someone's showing up, whether they're getting free content or not, you want to give content that's valuable. Now, there's only so much you can put in a free presentation. If you think about all the years and all the amount of study and research and everything that you've put into creating everything that you know, everything that you've learned, everything that you've studied, you would never be able to put it all into one presentation, even a week's worth of content. You just couldn't do it. So we've got to make sure that we're generous, that we're giving great value, that we're sharing from a place of generosity, and that people will get genuine value from it. You're not purposely holding stuff back. You're not just like planting a seed and then running away and not really giving any substance. You got to make sure that you're giving value. But on the flip side, there's times where people overshare. And I definitely used to do this. I used to run an event, an all-day event, where I would give so much away. I would give the whole banquet, and I would almost make people feel like they'd received it all. Like, I'm going to share with you everything I know today. I didn't say that, but that was kind of like my energy. And because I was wanting to give so much value, I ended up doing a disservice to them because I gave too much. And I made them feel as though, oh, it's cool. I've got so much to go away with. I'm so full. I'm so obese on everything that you've just given me and fed me. I don't need you for another 6 months, all right? I'm just going to go and chew on all of that. So you want your presentations to give value, to make sure that you over-deliver, but also that you don't leave people full. You leave people hungry, wanting more. You need to be able to spark curiosity. You need to be able to make sure that they don't realize that they're problem solved, because unless they carry on the journey with you, they're probably not going to solve their problem. They're probably going to walk away thinking they can solve their problem, but they can't. And I used to hate doing this. I remember when I learned this, I thought, oh my goodness, that's what I've been doing wrong. Like, I'd run an event where people wouldn't take up my offer at the end of it because I'd given so much for free, and I'd made them think that that was all that they needed. So there's a sweet spot in the middle between undersharing, giving too much, undersharing, not giving enough, not getting enough value, and then oversharing. And a lot of people say to me, how do I know the difference? You know, how do I know what to put in my free stuff and what to put in my paid, and which content to share and which not to share? And there's so much to that. You might have heard people say, always share the why and the what, but not the how. So there's some simplistic models that people use, but how do you actually do that? Like, how do you know what content should go in your free Facebook Live and into your free webinar and into your free workshop, and how much should go in your paid program? And so that's what I help people with. I know that kind of sounds like overly simplistic, but it's actually quite complex to figure out what should be shared and what shouldn't be shared in your free and in your paid, and also in your like your, what's the word, like in your marketing to people that don't know you compared to people who do know you. So if you think of like a client journey, there are people that don't know you for a bar of soap. The content that you share with them is going to be different to people that have come to one of your workshops, that consistently show up and watch your Facebook Lives or your Insta stories, the people that consume all your content. So you want to make sure that you're not just sharing to these people and you're not just sharing to these people. Everyone's in a different space on their journeys, and that's why you've got to map it out. So there's really not just this one rule. This is what you should share and this is what you shouldn't share. It depends on multiple factors. But I am going to be unpacking this more in my upcoming event on Saturday. So if you would like to know more about, am I oversharing? Am I undersharing? How much is too much? Like, what do I give away? What do I hold back? I'm going to be unpacking this because when I got people to fill out the survey to come to this event, that's what a lot of people said that they wanted. They also said that they want to know, how do I write the copywriting? How do I create the language to actually get people to come to my event? So I'm going to be talking about that. What's important to what's the language to put in? What's that influential language that's going to help them and inspire them to take action? I'm also going to be sharing, people really wanted to know how do I position my offer? How do I actually make an offer at the end of a free webinar or at the end of a free workshop? So I'm going to be telling you how to do that, unpacking all the things that I've learned over the years of making many, many offers in live events, online and in person. There's a formula to it. And if you don't know the formula, if you're not prepared, you're going to have fear come up. Like fear comes up when you don't know how to do something, or you think you know how to do it and then you don't. And when I was running these workshops back in the day at my gym, I didn't know any of this. And when I moved to Sydney and I realized that I needed to learn the art of presenting and the science of presenting, and there's an actual formula around it, because it doesn't just work by you showing up and giving content. There's a whole formula that you need to follow, but the formula overcomes the fear. The formula overcomes the fear. So if you want to get rid of that fear of people not showing up, not knowing how much content to share, focusing on yourself, if you want to know how to design your content so it's engaging, how to keep people's attention, how to deliver it, how to get the tech all working. I mean, there's just so much to a presentation. But when you know how to do it, it's actually really simple. You just follow the steps. So if you would like to come, it's this Saturday. A lot of you I know have already registered, but if you haven't registered, hello Veronica. If you haven't registered already, I'll just pop the link there in the chat box now. It's called How to Get Clients with Online Events. How to Get Clients with Online Events. So just click on the link and that's got all the information there. And I used to charge for this event. It used to be a paid event for my paid clients, but I decided that I'm just going to open it up for free. It's a full day and I'm just going to be sharing the best of what I've learned over the last 13 years presenting. I've made a lot of mistakes. I want to save you the heartache of some of these mistakes. It can be really costly, but our events are the strategy that I use to get clients. That's what I've used to grow my business. That's what I've used to create a six-figure coaching business working from home. Without events, I couldn't have done it. And so I did have to overcome that hurdle of that fear of A, getting up in front of a group, but B, knowing how to fill groups, knowing how to market, knowing how to run a successful event, knowing all the insider tips and tricks behind the scenes that I didn't even realize was happening. And so I've packaged that up, organized it all up into a 7-step formula, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you on Saturday. So I'd love you to come. If you've got any questions, just pop them in that comments box there. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. And if you can't make it for whatever reason, register anyway and I'll send you the recording. So I'm going to be editing up the recording afterwards. So I'll either see you on Saturday or I will see you next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Have a beautiful evening. Take care. Bye, friends.